Are you struggling with vocal reverb in your tracks? You've got some stellar vocals, but once you put reverb and space around them, this becomes you. These people right here. This video, we're going to look at how I like to set up reverb and some of the interesting effects chains that I also use to create that wide stereo effect like this. Today's video is sponsored by DistroKid. They're my music distributor. If you'd like to get your music out to all of the major streaming and download platforms at a price an independent artist like yourself can easily afford, check the description for a discount off of your first year today. So let's get it out of the way off the bat. CLA Vocals is on here. There is the tight reverb on here, and there is a bit of slap delay. So even if I turn off my buses and sends, there's a bit going on. It's got a bit of its own space already. Massive difference, right? A lot of the time I use it to give a little space and tonality to the vocal off the bat anyway, but you can hear there's a massive difference with the buses I'm using there. And the reason I use buses is I can reuse those with every single element. Now, I chose this track because it's really simple. It's just got one comped vocal. But if we've got multiple vocals, we can use multiple send amounts all to that same reverb space that we create rather than redoing it across every single channel. It lets you utilize that same space. And if you want to place something else in that vocal space, let's have a little look at what we've got and how we've set it up. So if we take the vocals and if we take the verb here. I don't even know if I still like you. Yeah, let's take the vocals off. I don't even know if I still like. And that's just the reverb that's going on, okay? And it's quite a lot. And I've probably automated it as well. Let me zoom in. Yeah, so the sends are automated as well. So it changes throughout the track how much reverb there is. So this moment here, it clearly ramps up. So let's check that out. The vocal builds up and harmonizes, the space should grow with that. So that's what we've automated in there. And then I think a similar thing happens at the start of the track where we've got loads and loads of space in the mix and we then take it away a little bit. Similar sort of principle, right? And we're doing all of that on a send, and you'll see I've got two sends going on here as well. And you're thinking, what else does it go to? So I've got another one here called Wide Aux. Let's have a listen to just what that's doing. Alright, so hopefully if your monitors are set up nicely or you get headphones on, you just got a really wide spread and like hollow in the middle. Because they're on two separate auxes, I can automate them separately as we can see. So I can push it up to spread or I can pull it back when I want, and that's what we've got happening in the intro there. So let's just listen to it all for context, right? So now we know what's going on, we know why these buses are happening. What do they actually do when we listen back to this bit of the track? Right, so hopefully we've got an idea of what's going on there. Now, how do you choose the amounts to send? Well, you can see that I've automated it. At some point I set a value and decided to work from there and bring it back and push it forward. What I like to do, I like to do this in isolation, and I'll choose an amount that seems a little bit too much on its own and then check that in context. And you'll often find that when you bring it into context, what was too much on its own is actually just about right. Ideally, let's see, it would have been around -9. Looks like I pushed it up there for the intro. So I probably would have done it around this section here, and that would have been roughly where I set it to. So this would have been roughly where I set my reverb to. And in isolation, that's a bit too much reverb, isn't it? It sounds like one person in an empty room. But when we do this, now then, when we add our wide aux, my opinion on reverb plugins, there's a million out there, loads of them sound really good. The stock ones in Logic are great. I use the RCs a lot because I can dial them in really, really quickly. I love Reverb, Space Designer's awesome. I love Waves, Hverb is awesome as well. They all sound amazing. I can just dial these guys in so quickly. I use them all the time and they sound amazing. Now setting wise, there's a couple of things that you can look at that are going to be really key for it working. Now I like, personally, really small pre-delay. I work in drum and bass, there's a really small space to work in because it's such fast-paced music. If you're working in something like house, dubstep, a little bit slower on the old BPM, you've got a bit more space to work with and you can play around with pre-delays and have a good bit of timing going on. If you want to work out things like that, there's a fantastic app called Audio Calc, which will let you put in your BPM and it will give you things like pre-delay times that you can work out if, for example, like this, they aren't synced. So we could give a bit of pre-delay. What does pre-delay do? It is the space between me talking, it hitting the wall and bouncing back. If we give it loads of pre-delay though, I can't fall to my knees and tell you. Now you can play around with the pre-delay and have it so it's bang on beat, right? So you can have it so it lands on the next 16th and adds an extra rhythmical element if you've got the space to do it. 24 milliseconds is the fastest this goes to. That's where I pretty much always have it. I think if we open up the other one, which on wide aux, it's exactly the same, like minimal amount, right? They're actually very similar in how I've dialed them in. I've started from a preset and just tweaked, but outside of that, right, depth, etc., it's down to how you want it to sound. Again, the genre I'm in, I don't want too much low end muddying everything up. That's got to be there for the drums and the bass, and there's very little space to work with in there. So I end up going for a lot of high end. If you're doing like an acoustic cover, you could get loads of low end in there, but beware, it's gonna muddy things up when you start having multiple reverbs and you try and bring a saxophone in and they conflict. So I tend to like to go for the high end and not too much low end. So we can do things like a high cut, which kind of fades it off. This has a really nice like visual representation of what's going on. Look, if we do this, I can't fall to my knees. Sounds really dead and flat, but give it loads of high end bringing off. So tell me, are you it kind of hugs the most listenable part of the vocal. They were talking about pre-delay and having that timing in effect. You can have that with your decay times as well. And if you get something like Reverb, you can set that up to be really, really specific in what you want it to be and keep it rhythmical and have it so that the next drum or next phrase or whatever doesn't get interrupted by the reverb. Personally, what I do in those situations is I'll put a gate on the reverb and we have gated reverb controlled by something else. It's nice to have that vocal sit along this entire like poppy D&B tune. Now there is extra roll off as well. So I put this EQ under the reverb in a lot of cases. Like I said, I don't want any conflict in there. So I just take all of that low end away. There's probably not anything there from the way I've set it up. It's a fail safe more than anything else. I just don't want anything to end up there. Wide aux is a little special. So let's have just the two reverbs in. No, just reverb, there's no vocal here now. So this, much like the other one, is fed directly into a reverb and it's set with loads of extra high end. So this time I'm really pushing the highs. Yeah, they're getting like air added to them, what you do with an EQ, but pushing it via a reverb. I can then control how much of that happens via the aux by pushing it up a bit more. What comes after that is real ADT from Waves. This is what gives it the spread and separation. So if we listen to just the two, just the reverb, right, and the spread. I want to be clear, the reverb is on mix, all right? That's why we're getting lots of the vocal through. But we need that for the spread to happen. And you'll understand why in a second when we put the next plugin on. So the next plugin, I use HEQ, or that's what's set in my preset, so I have to do this every single time. Anything that lets you do mid-side and then reduce the mid will work. So this is split to mid-side and then the mids are just taken out. So once this engages, then we lose the vocal, right? which is why the reverb's initially on mix. I hope that makes sense. If I take it away, we get all the vocal back. So HEQ's job is to take the vocal away and then add a nice little boost, or give me the option of curves and boosts on the reverb that's spread just on the sides, yeah? And then there's a comp just to glue it all together. So when we put the vocal in, it fills that hollow space in the middle.
I don't even know if you got
like
my
that.
trust. I can't fall to my knees.
And the other reverb gives space to all of this.
We're both to blame for this, so tell me, are you down with me? Won't have to do too much. Start again with our love. I don't even know if you got my trust. I don't even know if it's me or us.
I hope that's given you some insight into what you can do with reverb on your vocals, and how I get that big wide vocal sound to sit on top of the track. You know, having those split channels, I don't always do it, but that wide aux gives me so much flexibility to suddenly open the track up, add loads of high end, but just keep everything still nice in the center. If you want to learn how I go about EQing my vocals really quickly, check out this video next. If you have any questions, throw it in the comments down below. I shall see you guys in that next video. Take care.